Right, just before we crack on with this episode, just a quick word about our sponsor, KS Civils and Groundworks Limited, based in Leeds. They have over 296 years of combined experience in civil engineering and groundworks. Led by Director Carl Smith, their team is known for honesty, reliability and commitment to the highest safety and quality standards. They're proudly ISO accredited and fully CHAS Elite accredited. No matter the size of your project, KS Civils and Groundworks delivers professional, trustworthy service you can rely on. To learn more, visit kscivilsandgroundworks.co.uk. Now let's dive back into this episode. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight I've got Mick Riley on. Now, Mick joined the RCT in 1991 and amalgamated to the RLC in 1993. Hey, I'm shit at this, mate. Later on, after Mick left the army, he organised Tommy's Lounge, which some of you may have heard of. We'll talk about that later on and how that happened, and also the aspects of mental health around it. Hi, Mick, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you, mate. Really good, yeah.
Like I said to everybody who comes on the podcast, thanks for coming on. I know we've been going backwards and forwards for quite a while to get you on, and I'm just chuffed you are. You know,
cheers, mate.
I've kind of followed you on Facebook and stuff like that, and a lot of people who I've come across with during the podcast have mentioned your name as well.
Oh, right.
You know, people like Ricky Vet and all them.
Yeah, bless him.
All them head cases on TikTok. All but your name comes up quite a lot, and obviously, you know, because of Tommy's Lounge and stuff like that, and the sterling work that you're doing there. But as I said, we'll come on to that later on. So with my podcast, it's just a chat, really. You know, I ask you a couple of questions, and then we go from there. So the questions I'm going to ask you are: where did you grow up? Why did you join the army? What was it like? Why did you leave? And what have you done since? So if you just want to start off with like where you grew up and your background there, so people can get a feel of you, and what made you join the military?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in, obviously you can tell by the accent, it's very diluted nowadays, but I'm from Merseyside originally, the good side of the water, not necessarily Birkenhead, but Wallasey, you know, home of New Brighton, the poor man's Southport, which is the poor man's Blackpool. And, you know, I had a pretty normal childhood. My dad was in the military, left before I was born, ex-RCT. My mother worked for the police, so you can imagine there was quite a disciplined childhood sort of growing up there, you know what I mean? Went to an all-boys school because that was probably the best school in the area, and my mum and dad were adamant about that. But obviously, growing up in that kind of area, that kind of environment, it is a bit rough around there. And going to a school which was all boys, were very much like a military environment, you know what I mean? Testosterone-fueled teenagers running around the frigging the schoolyard and whatever. It sort of brought that, I don't know, not necessarily School of Hard Knocks, you know, it's not that kind of thing. But yeah, there was certainly, you know, a lot of sort of scrapping and things like that. But I had that disciplined sort of childhood when I get home as well. Yeah, it was two sort of contradicting sort of lifestyles. It was what happened when I was outside the front door and what happened when I was at home, you know what I mean? I was a little angel behind closed doors. But when I sort of hit that 13, 14 usual stuff, my dad was in the military, so I joined the Army Cadets. I wanted to see what it was all about. But that was more to keep me off the streets with me mates, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, it got to a point where drugs were then starting to be introduced into the local areas, especially around that sort of teenage years in Merseyside. So you're talking now late 80s. I started to see my friends sort of dabbling in drugs and then going shoplifting and petty crime and everything in order to pay for that kind of stuff. And it's never been my bag. I've never been interested in it because of, I think for me, it was more the fear of what would happen if I walked through my front door at home and my mum and dad found out that I'd touched anything like that.
It's funny. I mean, don't mean to interrupt there, but you just piqued something in my own memory there. So, I mean, I grew up, you know, I joined in 85, so I grew up, you know, my childhood was late 70s, early 80s. And you just said that, you know, there's the drugs starting to come in the late 80s. You know, I grew up in Hartlepool, you know, it's not the nicest places, but I never came across drugs. You know, and I wouldn't say I was an angel, you know, we fucking out playing in the streets until midnight, well, not midnight, but quite late on every night. We went places to kids, you know, we had our own little gang, you know, we got up to some shit. but not one of us, smoking, because everybody's smoking, you had to smoke. But never came across drugs with anyone, not even not even hash or anything like that. It was only later on that it started becoming a problem, really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you think about it, that sort of mid to late 80s was when the rave scene was really kicking off, and people were singing about ecstasy and and all that kind of stuff, and it just became more and more popular, didn't it? It became the new alcohol.
Yeah.
Look back only a few years before that, the done thing was for people just to go to the pub. You know what I mean? There was not really even nightclubs or anything unless you were into that scene, but it was down the pub every day. Christmas Day was 3 hours in the pub, and then the women would join later on, and then you'd all go home and have Christmas dinner, And then the sort of drug culture kicked in. But I was seeing that happen a lot, and I was seeing a few of my mates getting into some real trouble. And because my mother worked for the police as well, at that time I stayed away from that. My drug was more adrenaline. And I was often, from the age of about 12, riding motorcycles that I probably shouldn't have been riding, in places I probably shouldn't have been riding them. No helmets on or anything like that. Let's see how many blokes we can get on this bike and go around this old track and what have you. So yeah, it was that disciplined sort of childhood and seeing that sort of shit going on back home, where that's when I thought I've got two choices here. When I leave school, and I did okay in school, I was always in the top class for everything. You know what I mean? Don't let the looks fool you. I am quite intelligent, or was.
Yeah, we lose that with age, mate. We lose
absolutely.
that with age.
I've lost a lot of that, to be honest. And that's when I thought, you know what, fuck it. On the day of my last exam, my last GCSE from school, I walked out of the school, and it was a very disciplined school as well. Took my blazer off, hung it on the gate of the school, pulled out my Zippo lighter that I'd stolen off my dad a couple of years earlier, lit a fag up, sprayed petrol all over my blazer, set fire to it, and fucking walked off. I thought, if that doesn't make a statement, nothing will, Walked straight to the train station, jumped on a train, over to Liverpool to the careers office, chapped on his door, barely 16 at the time. But, right, mister, I want to join the army. And he's like, why? So, two choices here, mate. I'm either going to go down that route that a lot of my mates are doing, or I can try and do something with myself. I'd spoken about it with my parents quite a few times. And my dad had already said, yes, don't mind you joining the army, but I've only got one sort of stipulation in that: you get a trade. I was like, okay, yes, sound. So I wanted to join the REME. I wanted to be a mechanic. Went in, did all the tests, scored well highly enough to do it, and it was me and a mate of mine that went as well. But there was only one place left on the junior leaders at Arborfield at the time. He got it, and they basically turned around to me and said, look, you can go on the next intake, but you're looking minimum 6 months, possibly a year, by which point you'll be approaching that age to be able to go adult. I said, no, I can't wait another year. What else have you got? And they said, RCT, driver. Well, that's what my dad was. So I thought, he can't turn me down. My dad can't fucking slap me for this now if I'm going the same trade as him. So I went home with all the paperwork, because obviously under 18, you're not in charge of your own signature, are you, by law? Gave it to my mum and said, look, I want to join the army, and I can go in quite soon. This was around about September 91. And she said, I'm not having you joining the army. I was the youngest of two. You're my baby. I'm not having you joining the army and all that. My dad's like, fucking chuck it here, son, I'll sign it. But as I put to them, look, I've my mind set, I'm going in. So you either sign it now and I go into junior leaders, or I wait till I'm 18 and then I'm going in anyway, and I'll never fucking talk to you again. So I sort of held their feet to the fire a little bit with my parents. And so they signed it, and 2 months later, I'd done all my medicals, all that kind of stuff, and I had my train ticket and the official, King's Shilling when you go in to do your oath of allegiance and you get that half day's pay. And that was it. The rest was history. 7th of January 92, I was on that train down to Hull to then partake in 12 months training in Bovington, of all fucking places.
Yeah. Well, I don't have really much experience of Bovington apart from visiting what's there now type of thing.
Don't get me wrong, it's a lovely place, but at the time they were testing Challenger. So obviously, in order to test the tank, you need to build a training area to test that fucking tank. So that became our PT ground. 16 years old, we are up and down fucking knife edge berms and everything, people on your back while the PTI stood at the top having a fag, back in the day.
It's funny you mentioned. Sorry, it's funny you mentioned how quick it was getting in. I was the same. I was in before I finished. I'd done my last exam at school.
Fucking hell.
I'd done my oath of allegiance and everything. I was like my last exam, and then a couple of days later, I was off down to Bramco to do it. I remember it being a fairly quick process. I mean, I think I'd started the process in probably about January. I had two brothers in the military, so I just think I expected it, and everybody else expected me to just go in the army as well. And I just went along with that. I wanted to go in the Air Corps, but similar type of thing. There was no spaces. Just right, okay, then this was all the way down to Sutton Coldfield to do your assessment. And they were like, yeah, there's no places in the Air Corps because everybody wanted to be in the Air Corps until October. And I was like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Don't want to hang around
the same as me.
So they went, right, you can go in the artillery. What's that then? What's that do? Read this booklet. Fucking hell. All they do is go adventure training. Yeah, I'll go for that. Like, I don't fucking even know what it was. I was really shocked. But yeah,
it's exactly the same. Them adverts. Sorry, those adverts that used to be on. Be like Frank. Frank was constantly fucking skiing, water skiing, windsurfing, fucking
walking down the beach. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, they didn't show Frank fucking sat in a gun trench in the middle of Salthouse, freezing his fucking arse off like that, did they?
I mean, it's like I feel sorry for the kids who are trying to join nowadays because I see. You said like we mentioned earlier about Ricky Vett and stuff like that on TikTok, and there's a lot of guys on TikTok who trying to give advice to people who want to join up. Some of them are serving soldiers still doing it. I don't know if they get away with it. Social media and all that. They're serving soldiers.
Yeah,
shouldn't be doing it. But mind you, saying that there's a lot of shysters out there as well. Who try to. Oh, come to me and I'll do your fitness regime and stuff like this and get you fit enough to join there's a lot of that as well. But you see the lads who are asking the questions and leaving comments and stuff like that. And it's such a pain in the arse to join the army now.
Absolutely. Absolutely, mate.
It should be taken back off Capita and given back to us. And
100%. I mean,
used to. It's got to be the way to do it.
I've got two of my sons joined up. One's still serving now down in Marchwood. That's a totally different story. One's now out. But my third son tried to join. And when I was in London as an RSM, I had a flat, obviously, because we didn't have a mess. And I brought him down and lived with me for 3 months and said, I'll get you ready, son. And, my lad's a rugby player. He's a fucking unit, you know what I mean? He's been a prop or a hooker since he was 4 years old. So he's a big lad, but he's rugby fit as well. So he came to me, he dropped a lot of the sort of chubbiness off, so he was just then pure muscle. When he went to the careers office, through Capita, they did his BMI and all that, and they said, no, you can't join because your BMI is too high. He said, yeah, but I'm a rugby player, and I'm fit, I'll pass all your fitness tests. Doesn't matter, your BMI is too high. And it turned out we later found out he gave up all hope, really. He tried and tried and tried, and then he just gave up hope on it. And it was later I found out that there is actually a tick box that if you are, sort of pro or semi-pro sportsman in weightlifting, rugby, there are tick boxes that they can tick that the BMI just goes out the window. And we all know it's not a precise measurement anyway, BMI, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's, they lost what could have been a full career soldier. Probably Army rugby team, all for the fact of what? A BMI score, and that was a civvy sat on the end of a phone that turned him down, shattered his dreams, you know what I mean? That shouldn't be happening.
Like I say, you see it on social media.
Yeah.
I tried getting my son to join the army. He didn't really want to, but I tried.
You just wanted rid of him.
If you're watching this, David, I didn't mean that. It's all right, you won't be watching it. The process, he was trying to join the medics, and this was round about 2012 when I was getting on the army. It was just a pain in the ass. It really was, and if he had been wanting to do it really, deep in his heart, I think it would have put him off anyway. And he went a different route, and he's at uni now. It's great. He's a mature student at uni.
Oh, good on him. Good on him.
30-year-old, and he's at uni doing a computer science degree.
Very nice.
Yeah. Right. So, when you turned up at Bovington, were you ready for it? Were you ready for the? I mean, and again, I've mentioned it loads of times on this podcast. I was really, really lucky. I got a junior leaders in Bramcote in 1985, and me and my troop, Sterling troop, we were really lucky that we had some really good DS. The two sergeants in charge of us were brilliant. But you do hear horror stories, and we heard stories about other troops and stuff like that. But we were really lucky. In all honesty, me, that first morning, God, I can fucking still hear it. And all of a sudden, there's fucking bright lights. You could hear the lights coming on, and it was just like, "What's happening? What time is it? It's dark outside. Fucking hell!" It was a shock to the system, to say the least. How did you find it?
To be honest with you, I was very, very lucky. I travelled all the way from Liverpool Lime Street down into London, and I was stood on the platform at Waterloo, I think it was. I don't know, one of the London stations. And I just looked over, and there's a lad that I recognised. Fucking hell, a lad called A.D. Robinson. Me and him were in the Army Cadets together. So I said, fucking hell, A.D., how are you doing? He said, yeah, I'm fucking joining the Army. Just so happens, so am I. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to Bovington. Fucking hell, so am I. It turned out, we sort of shot the shit a little bit going all the way to Hull. When we got off the train at Hull, there was 4 tonners waiting for us with a member of the RP staff shouting and fucking screaming, as usual. But I was there with Robbo. I already had a mate sort of to help me out a little bit. And when we got in, it was straight into the gym where name, right, you need to go over there, and you separated into the 3 squadrons. And it turned out Robbo was in my troop. And because our names were so close together, we were in the same fucking room as well, because it was 10-man rooms. So I was very, very lucky that from day one, I had a mucker in the bed fucking 2 down from me, you know what I mean? But personally, I wasn't too phased by it. I think the Army Cadets helped me out, because that process was very much like going on an Army Cadet sort of summer camp or winter camp or whatever, where, it's on the bus, off the bus, 3 hours waiting to find out you're going into that room and all that kind of shit. People shouting and screaming and, that chaos. And then getting woken up in the morning. Like you, RDS, it just so happens we've got a Facebook group at our troop in training, which was 34 years ago now. 2 of our DS are in that group. We're still in touch with them. Our full screws, Mark Hopper and Phil Kyle, lives round by you. So they were just amazing. Mark came from an RCT junior leaders background. Phil was Royal Armoured Corps, 13th, 18th Hussars. But they truly, truly did nurture us, you know what I mean? There was no real shouting and screaming for the first, I'd say 2-3 weeks. It was only when people weren't doing as they're told that they'd raise the voice, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we had a cracking one. Absolutely cracking basic training. Yes, it was hard. It was fucking hard. The fact that there was that discipline, even at night as well, the lads in the blocks, yes, we got up to some fucking stupid shit. When the DS weren't about, of course, you've got to... It's like Harrogate now, my lad went through Harrogate and they're still doing the same shit. You put 60, 16-year-old lads in a block and there's no adults about, they are going to start fucking playing. You know what I mean? But yeah, we very soon as a troop got a bit of a reputation for being very close-knit. You know what I mean? And we all got on with each other. Even now, there's 35 of us still in touch from the original 40 that passed out. We've lost at least 3 of them that I know of as well. So pretty much the whole troop's still together now. That tells you a story straight away. And then those of us who were RCT, again, we all moved from juniors at the end of it over to Buller Barracks, to the home of the RCT, to the holding troop, ready to go and do our driving and what have you at Leconfield. So again, we were our own little close-knit team, even when we moved over to Buller Barracks. It was only then when you got posted for your first ever real posting. That's I think, for me, when it first kicked in, hold on, I don't know any fucker here. You now try and have to establish yourself as a person, walking into your first unit on the first day. And I wasn't even 18 at that point.
I've said it so many times on this podcast that, it's not the shock of capture when you join the army, it's the shock of capture when you get to your unit. Especially, 100%. And anyone who's listening to this are probably fucking sick of me saying this all the time, but everyone, when I got my unit, the first time I've been out of the country, I was in Germany. I've got a cut of slab. And I what's going on? The guy picked me up from the RAF Gutterslow in the back of a Land Rover. Just said, get in there, jumped in. He was one of the RP staff. Drove the camp. He says, right, get out. Someone will come. And I'm just looking around and I'm just thinking, they're all so fucking old. Everyone just seemed old and grizzled and angry, and it wasn't like that, but it seemed it. But it was a different time. I was like 86 when I got a unit. It wasn't that much earlier than when you got your first unit. You've been in training, you think you know it all. You get in your unit, and all of a sudden you realise you know fuck all. And you are the bottom rung, and you're going to get all the shit. But it's just part and parcel of it.
There was also that element for me. I don't know if it was the same for you being a junior. When we left junior leaders and went to our phase 2, if you like, for us it was Buller Barracks and Aldershot, there was also a very distinct split between the junior leaders and what we always used to call the 10-week wonders, the guys who'd just done their basic training there. They'd literally done a fifth of what we did. So we rock up, even to the point it sounds daft, but it's always something that sort of resonated with me, especially when I became a recruit instructor. We'd already done 12 months at that point. So our uniforms were 12 months old. You know what I mean? The lightweights had the different shade of fucking which side you ironed and which side you fucking didn't.
It's someone who's been using too much starch, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So we rock up absolutely fucking immaculate. And there's these, RCT trogs, that's why we're called trogs, fucking troglodytes. There's these fucking things stood there with the knuckles dragging the deck, ill-fitting uniform, got mud on the boots and all that, but no one give a fuck in phase 2 training, you know what I mean? So there was still that very distinct split where, we've done 12 months, we're better soldiers than them. Obviously, we fucking weren't. Nowhere near.
Well, you can think it.
Because they could go out on the piss and we fucking couldn't. That's the thing. We weren't 18. But yeah, it's just those little things that sort of pop back in your head, isn't it?
So how did you find it when you got your first unit, and where was it?
I originally got posted to 29 Regiment in South Cerney, which I never wanted to do, to be perfectly honest with you. It's while I was sat in phase 2 training, my name was read out one morning, and it was quite weird because the whole of holding troop, who were the guys waiting to be picked up for their driver training, are all in one big block. And they saw, U6 guard room, U6 officers mess, U6 sergeants mess. And they actually called my name out at the time. Like, Driver Riley, yeah. Education centre. They must need the fucking bins emptying or something. So off I trundle. Go in, this big mammoth of a fucking bloke there, W01. Yeah, Driver Riley, yeah, come into the room, sit down. And I was literally in a fucking classroom with about 10 other people. What the fucking hell is going on here? Didn't have a clue. So it was only then he sort of introduced himself. And I won't mention any names on here. I think he's not with us anymore, actually. But he said, right, this is the, what did he call it? The Movement Control Selection Board. The fucking what? Well, you guys have, all of you sat in front of us from not just RCT and Buller, but over in Guildford, because the racks were still sort of closing down at that point. So we had some girls there as well, and he said, basically, you're going to go through a day of testing to see if you have what it takes to be a movement controller. You've already been identified from your initial sort of test scores and your basic training reports and all that as having what it takes, but we want to see it. What the fucking hell is going on? And he said, any questions? Yeah. The fucking hell's a movement controller, sir? Well, we'll come to that later. Let's get through these tests first.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
So I went through them all. And at the end, he went, you did absolutely fantastically. You can now be a potential movement controller. I still don't know what one of them is. So he said, the way he described it was, you are in charge of moving assets, material, people from A to B, especially at times of war. And I thought, that fucking sounds interesting. I'll give that a go. So they posted me to 29 Regiment, South Cerney, where the mountain centre is. So I went in a fucking trundle, and I was like, what's going on? What do I do? Well, there's not really much for you to do until we get a flight in. there's no for you really to do. So, well, can you tell me what this is all about? And he said, yeah, you spend 12 months being a potential mover. Then you go away on the B3 course for 3-4 months. Hold on, so I'm going to spend near enough a year without even going to get qualified. Yeah, we basically teach you in that 12 months, and that gives us time to decide whether we want you and you want us. Okay.
Is it that complicated?
Yeah, or it was at the time. I don't know what it's like now. But I literally spent probably 6 or 7 months playing fucking cards. That's it. Because if there wasn't a flight in, there's nothing for you to fucking do apart from military training, PT, or play cards. And that's when I also started seeing a little bit of, shall we say, character building. So the AMC looks like a departure lounge at, any airport. And when you've got 2 battalions of parachute regiment sat there waiting for a fucking flight because they're going to go on with journey, obviously, to Bryce or Lynham or whatever, and their flight is delayed, the first thing they do is go to the potential mover, the fucking 17, just turning 18 fucking soldier. Go and read that script out. And you'll have heard it so many fucking times, mate. Sirs, marms, ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention for just a couple of minutes? We've received notification from Bryce Norton, your flight is delayed. Until fucking, and then you've got to fucking run off there for your life while all these lads who've been there fucking 2-3 days in transit accommodation are wanting to fucking kill you, you know what I mean? But it was always the youngest fucking lad that has to go up there and do that. Again, part of the character building side of it. But I went away and did the B3 course. And it was a test week on the B3 course. I banged my tabs in, went, not for me. And it's no disrespect to any movement controllers. I've still got a lot of very good friends from the movements world. But that trade just was not for me, you know what I mean? And that's when I went back.
Being like really dead man shoes as well.
Very fast promotion, very, very fast promotion. You had literally fucking 5-year full screws walking around, you know what I mean, which is unheard of, obviously, for the RCT. Well, RLC we'd become by then. But, yeah, it just wasn't for me, mate. I didn't want to spend my life filling paperwork out and telling people the flights were delayed. I know there's obviously a lot more to it than that. But I enjoyed it more when we weren't doing anything, or, for instance, the baggage wagon, you know what I mean? The guys would go through processing at the Air Mounting Centre and all their baggage would go onto the back of a 4-tonner or an 8-tonner. I enjoyed driving those 4-tonners and 8-tonners down to Bryce, not doing the actual processing bit. So that's when I turned around and said, no, I want to go back to mainstream driving. I didn't choose this. I was chosen for this. And yeah, a lot of people saw their arse about it, to be honest with you, in the trade. Because you are leaving us. How dare you? It's like a fucking scene from Hogwarts. And then when I got back off the course, back to, obviously, there's that admin period time frame, they fucking put me in the QMs so that I wasn't near the movers. This isn't fucking SAS selection, but they were fucking, no, you will go to the QMs, you will not fraternise with those fellow movement controllers. Oh, fucking whatever. But it was at that time I was called in. I got a punishment posting. Okay, so there wasn't a PPP in or anything like that. I got posted whether I liked it or not. And I was told at the time, you are being posted to Germany, back to my old unit, where I know for a fucking fact you'll get your head kicked in, you scouse twat.
Nice.
Not a drama. So off a fuck to Germany. Go to Slough. Obviously, you'll know the camp very well. Princess Royal Barracks. And you know what? From the minute I hit that ground that day, I had the absolute fucking time of my life, mate. I met some of the best fucking blokes I've ever met in my life. Some absolute nutcases. But it was that Germany family. Not being able to go home at the weekend and all that kind of stuff meant you gelled so much more in the blocks. And yeah, it was amazing, mate.
You're right, the Germany family. I've not heard it said that in that way before, but it's true. We do talk about that a lot. The difference between UK soldiers and BFG, BOR, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, if you're talking about the Germany soldier, especially the older years, there was definitely, let's say, a drinking culture.
Putting it mildly.
In some places, PT wasn't as important as it should have been, and it changed. Christ, the naffy bars used to be on lunchtime. You're allowed 2 pints, stuff like that. When you were on about earlier about when you went off for your phase 2 and that, I left junior leaders and went off to do an all-arms class course. Don't blame me. I thought it was going to be easy. And all of a sudden, there was like a load of us, fresh out of junior leaders, down at Worthy Down on our own. We just spent 12 months, everyone looking after us, still telling us what to do. And all of a sudden, we were on this course and we were like, we can do what the fuck we want. And the bar was at lunchtime. I don't remember the afternoon fucking lessons down there. But every night out. When we got back, we'd finished the course and we had to go back to Bramco before we went out of our units. All got pulled in. Your reports are shit. Oh, fucking hell, sorry. But yeah, Germany was it was a big eye opener for everyone, I think. And you're right, not going home at weekends, you get closer and closer and closer to people. And you do it. Even like the pads, they'd have singlies on for Sunday dinner and stuff like that.
That's exactly it, mate. And I'm still friends with, we had a guy, he may watch this, he may not, Sinbad, Scouser. So we had our squadron, we had your troop family, you'd had your squadron family, you'd had your regimental family. Sinbad was in our squadron. Only a Lance Jack, married to another Scouser. Every Sunday, without fail, he'd come onto camp, so he didn't even have to drive. He'd pick up the Scousers from the squadron, the single lads, over to his pad. He only had a little 2-bedroom flat. And we would all be sat around the table. He would cook. Him and his missus would cook this Sunday dinner every week without fail for like 14, 15 blokes. And it was like a scene from Bread. The old Ma Boswell. They literally had one of them chicken things in the middle of the table, and all the lads would take the Deutschmarks out and put them into the chicken, eat them, fuck off back into camp, and come back with like 4 or 5 crates of beer. And we'd all just be sat around, having an amazing time, drinking beer. It usually ended up with at least 3 or 4 of us still in his house, unconscious on the floor on a Monday morning, and him taking us back into camp to quickly get changed for PT. But that never happened in UK, you know what I mean? But that was a standard thing. Every Sunday we're going around Sinbad's for a Sunday dinner. It's a shame that it didn't happen in UK, and I had a good eye opener to that. Very lucky in that I did a lot of time in Germany, a hell of a lot of time. Out of the 27 years, 19 of it was spent in Germany. So that first time I was posted back to the UK, I was a full screw. And it was a fucking eye-opener, mate. When I knocked on my neighbour's door, I was married then with kids, knocked on my neighbour's door, and it was, all right, yeah. Well, we've just moved in, we've unpacked everything, we're going to have a couple of drinks later on, let the kids meet each other, and yeah, sound, I'll be round. Knocked on the door with a bottle of wine. I said, what rank are you? I said, I'm a full screw, why? I said, I've just got me commissioning W01 at the moment. Enjoy your wine. Went next door, never said another fucking word to me for 2 years. And that's what? Even my kids weren't allowed to play with his kids, you know what I mean? You're like, wow.
There's a lot of that, There is. I mean, I suppose that at that level, at that difference in level as well, you have got to keep familiarity breeds contempt type of thing.
No, I tend to disagree a little bit, to be honest with you, because he was nothing to do with me. He's nowhere near my chain of command, not even working on the same camp. We were
right, okay. I thought it was part of your regiment or your.
And I've always, there's reasons for it. Come 5 o'clock, I am not, Lance Corporal, Corporal Sergeant, Staff Sergeant, whatever. Come 5 o'clock, I'm Mick. I'm Dad. And I always maintain that. I don't give a fuck if my neighbour's a private soldier or a lieutenant colonel. My name's Mick when I'm at home. And, you should be John, Dave, whatever. We can have barbecues together, and be neighbours rather than, there are some...
It's families.
Correct. Yeah. But there are people out there who wear their rank better at home than they do when they're on camp, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I've always...
I never had any, so I can't be accused of that.
See, I always had to be like that because I've been up and down so many fucking times, mate. I never knew what rank I was going to be at the next posting.
I'm the same as you. I did 27 years and I was a full screw.
Fucking hell.
And I think I was lucky to get there. I think they just give me that out of pity.
It's all for the pension.
We're gonna make him pay mess bills a bit more. Fucking get up there. There's fucking reasons for that anyway. I have come across it, and anyone who listens to this who was in the military will have come across that. prime example for me was living in a, when you live in the flats in Germany, you end up with a flat NCO type of thing. Make sure your block jobs are done. Yeah, fucking, I've swept the stairs. Fuck off. He come bang. I was in Canada on Medman, and this newly promoted sergeant fucking banged on the missus's door and said, "No one's been to sweep the stairs because I've just got the kids in from school. I'll do it later." And as she shut the door, he put his fucking foot in the door, and uttered the immortal lines. "But you know who I am? I'm the block NCO." And she just went, "You don't move your foot, I want to rip your fucking head off." And when I got home, she never told me because she knew exactly what I'd have done. One of the reasons I was a full screw at 27.
Rightly so, mate. Rightly so.
I would have lost. I did find out, and I had a quiet word with him. And I said, like I explained to him, when you walk through these doors of the flats, we're all the same rank. Doesn't matter. We do the block jobs and stuff like that because we know they've got to be done, and it's part of living together. You don't order me to do stuff. I just do it because we can. I don't do it. I get kids to do it. Give the kids €10 and they do it. But you do when you're out of work. There shouldn't be. It's like when you're playing sport. There's no rank in sport.
Correct. Yeah,
there's
and the army's brilliant at it.
Yeah, and there's no rank on going on a piss. I mean, you end up on a piss with your fucking battery captain or your OC and stuff like that, and it happens. But you keep the rank out of it. So, but you do get the ends of a bell who will carry their rank all the time. And there's the old adage of the wife carrying the husband's rank. I never actually come across that in my time. I never met a lad's wife who was like, my husband's a fucking sergeant, my husband's a staff sergeant. I never actually met anybody like that. I know it happens, and I know there was people like that. Yeah. I was lucky enough to probably not live in them circles, if you know.
I've experienced the reverse side of that, which is going to sound weird. Coming from Germany back to UK, we were in Afghan. I picked up on the WO2's board. I'm very fortunate then to pick up on the Sergeant Major's board after that. And I was going. It was only my second ever UK posting down to Marchwood in Southampton, and there was a couple of families in Germany at the time, and my wife at the time was on Facebook. The BFG wives, fucking jungle drum groups and shit like that. I said, "Oh no, postings come through. We're off to Marchwood," and somebody else jumped on it and went, "Oh well, we're off to Marchwood as well," and somebody else. So I thought that's fucking brilliant because we're not going to a driver sort of unit, seeing the same blokes we've been with for the last 18 years. We're going somewhere fresh. So you already having a couple of friends and everything, that's going to be fucking amazing. One of them turned around and said, "What rank's your husband?" And she went, "Well, he's going to be Sergeant Major." "Oh, right, well, I guess we can't really talk then, can we?" And that was us that had to put a block on. I go, whoa. Doesn't matter what fucking rank your husband is, love. At the end of the day, look at the situation we're in. We are all, and I think it's the Germany mentality that sort of brings that in. It's that, well, we're all in this situation. Don't matter what rank we are. We're all going to move together over to this new place, and we will remain friends when we get there. And you know what we did? We did remain friends all the way through.
When you say things and just ping, it's just reminding me. Remember Soldier?
Yeah.
When he gets the commission and his missus can't talk to anybody and stuff like that. It's just fucking. It's just reminding me of that. I don't know. Well, I don't know why, because you reminded me of it.
Well, it's just weird, isn't it, the way some people work? But now strangers folk, mate.
So, I mean, you've got your unit and everything like that, and we've gone off on tangents all over the place. So I think our historical timeline of going through your career is out the fucking window, completely. I'll tell you what. We'll ask you about. So you're out in Germany. When was your first tour, and where was what?
I was very lucky in that. Well, not that lucky really. I got out to Germany 93, 94. I developed testicular cancer in 96. As the squadron was getting ready to go to Northern Ireland. So I'd done all the Northern Ireland training and everything. I was ready to rock and roll. But, certain set of circumstances and all that kind of stuff. I developed testicular cancer, so I had to go and get one of my bollocks removed. When I come back to, because I was in the old BMH Rintel, come back to the squadron and it was, you're on 6 weeks sick leave. Yeah, gleaming, not a drama. But, we're still looking forward to Ireland. No, you're not going. What do you fucking mean I'm not going? Well, no, because of your medical side now, you are now P7, home only, not Northern Ireland. Yeah, that means you can't deploy. So what the fuck am I doing now? And they actually posted me back to UK at the time for more treatments and respite and all that kind of stuff, which when I look back, it's a bloody good job they did. But that was my first experience of standing on that vehicle pan at RAF Gutterslow, watching coaches of my mates disappear on tour. And I thought, I never, ever want to fucking do this again. Never. I just felt so shit watching my mates go and not being on that coach with them. So anyway, it comes back to UK, did 12 months with local TA unit in Liverpool as a motorcycle instructor. So yeah, fucking great time of my life, to be honest with you. It was a year of just riding fucking motorbikes every day. It was fucking gleaming. But unfortunately, it was found that I'd had a recurrence with the testicular cancer. So,
and I just interrupt you there.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. We spoke a little bit about this before we started recording. Now, I'm guilty of not having a good grow up of my own knackers to make sure everything's fine, right? And it's something that we don't really talk about as blogs. You know, we don't get gangooly, pardon the pun. How did you find out? How did you know? What made you go to the doctor and say, have a leg of that?
Two sort of elements to it. Number one, I was working on the door on camp, on the nightclub on Camp Club 47. A lot of people will remember it very well.
Yeah.
A lot of people will remember me from that door because I was there a long time. And I was booted square in the fucking bollocks during trying to split a fight up. And obviously you're going to swelling and all that kind of stuff. And it was my wife at the time. It was about 2 or 3 weeks later. Swelling had gone down and we laid in bed. And it was my wife who had her hand down there. You know, I can feel a lump. That's an erection, but thanks very fucking much. But she went, no, there's a lump. I said, well, can we forget about it for at least the next fucking 3 minutes at least, and we'll sort of talk about it after. It was one of them. You will go to the doctor. You will go to the doctor. But I was very much from that sort of generation, if you like, of the only time you knock on that doctor's door is if you're on fucking death's door, you know what I mean? You don't want to be branded the biff. So about 6 weeks later, I went to the doctor, and at that point he was like, I think it's a blocked sperm duct. Okay. So what do I do? Here's some antibiotics, hot bath, ejaculate. If it's still the same in 2 weeks' time, come back and see us. Obviously, it was the same, so I went back 2 weeks later and I saw a different doctor, and he was like, fuck. Up to Rintown, ultrasound scan, testicular cancer. 36 hours later, I was under the knife. And it turned out it was quite advanced. So it wasn't from me feeling around, checking myself, knowing what to check for and all that kind of stuff. It was those set of incidents leading up to, okay, I'm going to have to go sick because it's getting bigger and it's getting more and more sore. Off the back of that being kicked in the bollocks. So that's what got me thinking, and we mentioned this before we started recording. Actually going through that process, and as I said, it come back the following year, and I had chemotherapy for that, quite fucking harsh chemotherapy. And then it come back the year after as well, in which I had to have a massive, massive operation to get rid of it. And that's when I sat and thought to myself, look, I know a lot of guys who've had testicular cancer who they don't want to talk about it. They feel as though they're not as masculine as they used to be, having a testicle missing, or they don't feel like a man anymore, really. And I went down the other route. Hold on, I didn't know what I should be checking for, how I should check, how often I should fucking check, because there's no awareness for it. I'll open my mouth. And it was with an old mate of mine, Philly Morris. He set up, after going through it himself, we were in Germany together. He set up Check 'em Lads. And with him, we started we had a prime audience, you know what I mean? So at that point, I'd been posted back to UK as a recruit instructor. I'm sat in Deepcut, an older shop, with 1,000 recruits. So I said to the bosses, one night a week, you guys like to do something different, to get the troops in and, talk to them about hygiene or health or, fucking something away from the military. Well, how's about we do testicular cancer awareness? And they went, okay, yeah. So we gave our first talk in Deepcut, it was, to over 400 fucking people. And while we're talking to them about it, it hit home for them because I'm their training screw. They're seeing somebody they know at the front of that fucking theatre putting his hand up and saying, I've only got one bollock. Fucking hell. This is why. And Philly did the same thing. And you can see them while we're talking about how to check and what to check for. They're putting their hands in their pockets while we're talking to them. Off the back of that first talk, I think fucking 15 people went sick the following morning with signs and symptoms. 3 of them were diagnosed. So, you know, that to me then was just by opening my fucking mouth, we may have saved a life here. Which is why I'm very much got the attitude I've got now, you know what I mean? I am very open, very transparent, and I will talk about fucking subjects that are quite taboo in normal, polite conversation, as you said, you know what I mean? You don't just talk to your mates about your bollocks, do you? You know, hello, Frankie, how's you, mate? How's your nuts?
Well, I mean, I had a bit of a reputation. I'd have probably shown people. I bumped into someone on TikTok who I didn't know. He joined one of the batteries as I left in 2006. I got passed back to the UK, and he went on it. And he said, "Oh no, I've heard of you." I was like, "What do you mean you've heard of me?" Sensational. And I was like, "Fuck." Yeah, don't believe any of it. None of it.
I've had that before, mate.
Yeah, I mean, right. So we'll jump back on board with the. You know, you mentioned about watching the guys go away.
Yeah, so
deploying. I've only had that once, and I don't feel guilty because they were off to Cyprus for 6 months, and I was like,
fucking hell.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I've vowed never to do that again, mate. And yeah, you know, sort of fast forward 3 years, I'd got over all the sort of cancer stuff. 99, I was back in Germany again, back with my old squadron, which that was always my aim. Once all this is done, I want to be back with the lads. And that's when, obviously, the Serbs were kicking the fuck out the Albanians over in the Balkans, and we got the nod that we were going. So it was like, yeah, not a drama. And it wasn't even our squadron that was going. It was a different squadron from the regiment, but they didn't have any fuel operators. So they needed fuel operators to go with them, train their fuel operators for 6 weeks and then come home. That was, you know, that was the offer, the carrot. 6 weeks and then you'll be home. So he goes out to Kosovo. Obviously, Agricola won. And after 6 weeks, and there is some of your listeners will remember this, after 6 weeks, we went to the OC, right, we've done our job, your guys are on the ball, they're operating all the different equipment. He went, no, I've spoken to your OC back in Germany. He's quite happy for you guys to stay here if you want.
Whoa. If you want.
Whoa. We've only got enough rig with us for 6 weeks, really, not a full 6 month tour. So we'll get you more kit, don't worry about that. So, okay, well, who's going to tell our fucking families? Because the families were expecting us home. And he went, well, long and short is that's it, you're with us for the full 6 months. Fucking mega. So we got very friendly with a lot of people remember him, BFBS Radio, Frank McCarthy. Frank was the Kosovo guy at the time. We'd often pop by with the wagons, you know, fucking park up, pop in for a brew with him. And we started a campaign, Free the Kosovo 8, I think there was of us. It was going out across BFBS. We started writing poetry and all fucking kinds of stuff. Well, you know, on the Sunday call in the Balkans where the families are speaking to the soldiers away and all that, there'd be this fucking poem from the Phantom. And it was all about freeing the Kosovo 8 and, you know, shit that had gone on in camp that you really shouldn't be telling the radio about. But it wasn't our squadron, it wasn't our hierarchy or our senior NCOs. We didn't give a fuck who we were upsetting. We dug a little ditch and put a pair of boots upside down outside the Sergeant Major's tent. So when he walked out first thing in the morning, it looked like a failed escape tunnel with Stalag 13 written across it. We had Tom written across that. The following week, he had one with Harry written across it. We just terrorised the fucking hierarchy of that squadron until they let us fucking come out. So as you can imagine, you know, from that, the first sort of 4 or 5 weeks of seriousness of being in Kosovo, you know, seeing the kids walking around with nothing, seeing the results of some of the atrocities that had happened, obviously very, very sobering. That was my first tour. So at that point, yes, it was difficult. And that's when a little bit of homesickness kicked in, but also that bit of self-training of, I need to stop thinking about home. I need to stop thinking about wife and kids. I need to concentrate on these lads around me and lasses. And that was a thing that I still sort of do now, subliminally, unconsciously, whatever. But extracting yourself from your home situation and dealing with there and then and that time and the people you're with. So yeah, very lucky in that I didn't do a tour for 7 years. But then once I'd done Kosovo, it was every 2 years afterwards.
Oh, fucking hell. I mean, it's what you said there about separating home life when you're on tour. You're right. It's subconscious. You just literally till you get your bluey or you've got your 10 minutes on the phone. You just don't think of home.
Yep. And even then, when I'm on the phone with you, it's obviously went up in increments. But in Kosovo, we were on the sat phones, and it was you are getting 10 minutes. That's it. Even then, I didn't want to be on the phone. It was you're doing everything you can. No, sorry, got to go. I've only got 2 minutes left because I didn't want to. I didn't want to hear about home. I didn't want to fucking listen about home. I'm not asked whether the kids were fucking late for school or whatever. Actually, I'm dealing with everything that's happening here. But obviously your family back home don't see that. But what I did find in that, I think a lot of your listeners might resonate with this as well. It's that extracting yourself. If you know you're going away, which we all do, we don't just suddenly get a phone call saying, right, grab your bag, you're going. You've got that several weeks lead up time before going and your training and whatever. I started fucking separating myself then, not when I walked out the door. I was an absolute twat. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It was, I'd never shouting, but I'd be creating arguments. I wanted my family to not want me there. And if the family don't want me there, then I'm happier going out that door because they're not going to miss me. And I still do that now. I work 4 on 4 off. If I'm going away when I go away for 4 days, that 24 hours before, I'm not a twat, but I'm more reserved. And I don't even know I'm fucking doing it, mate. You know what I mean?
It's self-defense. That's what it is. It's a self-coping mechanism.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I wouldn't have said I suffered from the same thing. I'm probably just an ignorant shit who sus when I was away. No, but you separate yourself from
you've got to
life and work. And I didn't even appreciate it until probably after I'd left the military. And then all of a sudden I'm there all the time. I felt sorry for them then. Fucking hell. I'm not the easiest person to live with at all. I don't even like living on my own with myself. My cat doesn't talk to me. Fuck all, it's great. But it's definitely a coping mechanism. It's a self-preservation thing. And you probably do feel as though you're making it easier for them as well. As we know, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it really isn't. It affects the families a lot more than we give it credit for at the time. We'd go away and come back from a tour, and as much as they've got, you've been away 6-7 months, and they've lived their life for 6-7 months. Even the kids have, oh shit, dad's on type of thing. But it's just a way. We've all gone through it. We have to deal with it in different ways. But like you say, we'll come on to it in a bit. Later on, that's when it fucking hits you.
100%, yeah. I was exactly the same, mate. I mean, I've always said it's easier for us when we are away. It's a lot easier for us being away. Yes, you're in sort of austere conditions. Certainly when we went to the Middle East for the first time and all. When you first go somewhere, you're digging in, or Kosovo clearing dead animals out of a warehouse so you can move your radio kit in and all that kind of stuff. Yes, that's fucking difficult. But you know what? We know what we're doing, and we're surrounded by mates and people who've got your back and all the time. Back home, I see it now because my son's still serving. I see it now and think, especially with the way the world's going at the moment, how would I fucking feel him being away and me not knowing what he's up to and where he is? Obviously, I know what can happen. So for him and for us at the time, it's a piece of piss. And that was brought to I was on the phone to my parents when the last time I was away, which was Afghanistan. We actually, while we were on the phone, the IDF alarm went off. We all know and fucking hate it. But my mum heard that on the phone, and then the phones went dead. Yeah. The next time I could ring him, it was about a week later. Maybe I should have rang her sooner when we got the all clear, you know what I mean? But it was about a week later. I didn't realise my mother had been sat there in fucking tears, all the time I'd been in the army and all the times I'd been away. That was the first time she'd actually heard something in the background, and she'd been fucking crying herself to sleep at night for a week. And I thought, wow, we don't know what's happening at home.
We don't know what they've gone through.
And it must be so difficult. But that's where Germany was great, because when we went away, the wives were surrounded by other wives whose husbands' kids going to school with other kids whose dads were away. It was great. UK was slightly different.
Yeah, very. I mean, so you were out on Optelic 1.
With your crew, yeah?
I was going to say with us, and I didn't know that until you mentioned it when we were chatting on Facebook. Optelic, I mean, it was great. I don't care what anyone says. All right, we shouldn't have been there. All right, fair enough. Weapons of mass destruction, not a bollocks. Whatever. I fucking loved it. I thought it was great. We were out there doing his job. I was unfortunate enough, there was a second Gulf War I'd been to. I mean, I was in the one in 91. 91? 91?
91, yeah.
It wasn't. Yeah, fucking hell. That was a good guess, wasn't it? But we were there to do a job. We were given a job. We did it. We did it well as well. We did it well because we won. What came after was the shower of shit. With, blame the Yanks, we always do. They took over, they didn't have a plan, whatever. But I think Optelic for me, I'm very proud of it. I've got the medals over there on the wall. And do I remember it fondly? I suppose I do, actually. Weirdly, I wasn't scared until we got stuck once and 2 helicopters flew over and turned round and came back over us again. We were like, fuck, Union Jacks out, like fucking England. But it was all surreal. It was like that build-up beforehand. I think the build-up to going was really quick. It was like almost a flash to bang. All of a sudden we were painting the guns and we were going. But it was got out there in the desert and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Yeah,
it was because obviously I'll never forget it. I can't forget it because we flew into Kuwait on the 3rd of March, 03. So you can never fucking forget that for a date. Then there was obviously the acclimatisation training. Let's face it, fucking ginger bloke. I needed that fucking acclimatisation training, even though it was quite cold. But yeah, it was weird. I remember being in, I think it was about 30 or 40 of us in this big fucking Bedouin tent. And that was it was the first time I'd ever been to the Middle East, and I was like, okay, this is like what you see on the telly. And then when you're trying to clean your gat and there's fucking sand everywhere and you realise just how fucking much sand can get into places that you didn't even know were places.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, mate, in what you said. There was, obviously, we're listening to the daily briefings twice a day about the way the political side was going and all that kind of stuff. But when we got the nod, my regiment at the time, I'm not going to sort of reiterate too much on it, but they didn't, as a regiment, deploy over the border. But a lot of us got detached out to other units. So, for instance, I came to 3RHA to do your sort of frontline fuel replen stuff, and it was a one-commodity battlefield, so we all had AVTR on the back instead of just diesel. Which quite... Yeah, we've spoken about it. It was quite an eye-opener being detached to another regiment to do their sort of fuel stuff in a 1960-odd fucking fuel tanker that was VOR before we started. But funnily enough, it's fully fucking roadworthy as soon as somebody clicked the fingers and made us ready to go. But yeah, we had a fucking scream, mate. An absolute fucking scream. Like you, some of the shit that we did, we shouldn't have really... you can't get this. I talk to people a lot now, obviously, with Tommy's and some of the experiences we had. Having a shower halfway through the ground war whilst there is fighting in sight. I got one of the lads to grab a water jerry can. I thought, you know what, I feel fucking minging. We're sat back here in a fuel wagon. There's not a lot for us to do. Fucking I'm having a shower. What? Everybody else has got fucking helmets, and if they had body armour, they had it on. I was still in green kit at that time. We hadn't been issued fucking desert kit. So I'm stood there watching Challenger fucking tanks firing because we know we're going to go forward and fuel them up pretty soon. But yeah, one of the lads stood on top of the tanker pouring a 20-litre water jerry can over me. I'm having a fucking scrub, starkers, and then grabbed me. The only towel I had with me was a Union Jack one, obviously in case I had to put it on top of the fucking truck. There's a picture of me on Facebook, literally wrapped in a Union Jack towel. That's day 2 of the fucking war. We shouldn't have been doing that shit. Stopping halfway through a battle to brew up. You know, only the Brits can fucking do this stuff.
You know, they say that, right? And, I've had a couple of American guys on here and they said, oh, yeah, this, that, and I was like, no, I've done it. I was part of the recce and we shot up out of Safwan to go towards the airfield. And we hit the MSR. And I'm in this battered old fucking 432. And I'm looking at, I've never seen so many vehicles in my life, ever. Honestly, thousands and thousands of vehicles just going north. And we were zipping in and out of them. You know, all these big American marine and amphibious vehicles and stuff like that. They're looking down on us going, what the hell's that? What the hell's that? And we just stopped. There was like an RMP sat there and going, what's up? He's like, pointed over and said, oh shit, a little tank battle going on. So we just put the BV on, sat on top of the wagon having a brew.
Watching
the Yanks are like watching us. What are you doing? We're like, well, can't do it. Put the BV on. That's all you need.
Yeah, 100%, mate. It's like when the war had finished, we were. I think it was just outside Basra Airport where a lot of the armour and everything, the Iraqis had buried it in the deep mud, and we had a couple of Remy recce mechs pulling this shit out and obviously documenting it and everything. And I was still working for you guys at the time, and I'd built up that relationship. You know what I mean? I was only. I think it was a Lance Jack for the second time round then. Yeah, Lance Jack for the second time round. And I'd built up this relationship with your QM Tech at the time. And somebody needed refueling, so I went, no drama, we'll go. So we fucked off. We were in drops at that point, testing new Ubery pods on the back of the drops. And I saw one of the recce mechs dragging this fucking thing out. How many of them have you got? So at the moment documented, we've got about fucking 20, 30 of them. Oh, mega. Give us that one. What? Gives it? It's a fucking anti-aircraft gun, Michael. Like, yeah, gives it. Are you fucking serious? Yeah. Where do you want it? So he threw it on the back of a fucking trailer. I can't remember what the bloody called, the King's trailers. And we brought it down to your headquarters. And I went to your CO. Ta-da! What the fuck is that? It's a gift from us to you. And we had a little, like, half edge of a ration box written on it. 2, 3 RHA. Thanks for the memories. Lots of love. Fucking Scouse making one of the lads who was with us. And he went, you've brought us a fucking anti-aircraft. Yeah, no. But it's yours. You can have it. And from what I recall, memories sort of fade a little bit now. They got one of the Remy armourers in to have a look at it, and it was still had fucking rounds up the spout, mate. Nobody had cleared this fucking thing, so I've rocked up outside your headquarters with this fucking 4-barrel fucking anti-aircraft artillery piece, still with rounds in it. It took them about 6 hours to fucking clear it and make it safe. But yeah, I believe that was taken back to UK.
Well, I'm going up to the regiment on Friday. A lot of veterans have been invited to the sergeant's mess.
Oh, very nice.
Which I think is brilliant. So I'll ask about.
Yeah, see if it was brought back to the UK or whether they just, because I know they used it as a gate guardian in Basra for a while.
Yeah, I didn't go out in and out of the palace a lot. I ended up on Scheibe logistics. It was just Scheibe.
Costa del Scheibe.
Yeah, they had parked all the vehicles up there. Half of us went down to the L4, and the rest of us just hung around making sure the vehicles were all right before they got shipped back. So spent a few weeks up there and didn't really go in and out of the headquarters until I started making a video. I made a video while I was out there.
Nice.
And everybody wanted to be in it. I'll talk about that afterwards. Because I'll show you where there's a copy of it. You might like it.
All right. Yeah.
So after the Optalic one, what was next for you then?
So then it was the worst tour of my life, mate. They sent me to Deep Cut for 2 years as an instructor.
I mean, Deep Cut's got a reputation.
Absolutely. Obviously, things happened in Deep Cut that, shouldn't have happened. There was a review, and off the back of that review, that's why, again, quite interestingly, I think there was about 15 of us all posted in at the same time, because the back of the review said there needed to be more duty of care instructors. There needed to be more junior and senior NCOs looking after the crows while they're going through phase 2. And I was one of them. But again, it wasn't long before I was in trouble, because we didn't, if you remember off the back of Telic 1, there wasn't any sort of decompression really. And I'd already been told at the end of the war in Iraq that I was posted. The day you hit fucking Germany, you've got 6 weeks and you start. And that includes your post-op tour leave. So, fuck. But they sent me on promotion to full screw, which I should have got a couple of years earlier. But that's a different story. So yeah, 15 of us turned up. And we'd all been sort of Germany, Gütersloh, and Iraq. So what happens when you put 15 new people in a squadron? You've pretty much trebled the manpower looking after the crows, and your last job was war fighting operations. You've got a slightly different. You haven't got that stereotypical phase 1, phase 2 instructor sort of head on you. And I know it's a lot different now, a hell of a lot different, and rightly so, that people are trained into and selected for positions in training establishments. But back then it was, you guys go. It was that knee-jerk reaction to the review from the Deep Cut deaths. Yes, we did over the first sort of 6 months get training in it, but there was several occasions, where I wanted to. I'm not going to incriminate myself on here. Let's just say physically discipline a couple of the scrope bags.
I like to put it, what was once mentioned in my CR, is a robust NCO.
Correct. What I mean? We'd just come from warfighting operations. We've just seen the calibre that these individuals, and this is the way I always looked at it when I was training. Would I have that soldier with me in my section in that instant that I was in? And if the answer's no, I'm not going to fucking post them to the unit. Because I don't want to get into a unit and one of their mates going, "Who was your training group?" "Oh, Mick Riley." "You've sent us a night fucking bag of shit here." I never wanted to be in that position. So I took my job very, very seriously. But that also included people who push you to that point of you literally want to grab them by the throat and instill the fucking discipline into them that needed to be fucking instilled. And at one point I ended up in front of the commanding officer about to be charged. And I couldn't afford another fucking one. And that's when I turned around to him and said, "Look, I'm not being funny, but where's my cultural awareness training? Pardon? Where's my decompression?" Okay, so we are dealing with foreign and Commonwealth soldiers, as we all know, especially with the RLC, lots and lots of them, which is a good thing. But when we go away on operations, we, on our pre-tour training, always do cultural awareness. When you are dealing with Arabic nations, little things like when you sit cross-legged, make sure you don't show them the bottom of your feet, and certain hand gestures, that is good for us, it's not for them. And we get taught how to deal with different nationalities and cultures. There's none of that going into Deep Cut, where at the time, I think there was something like fucking over 20 different nationalities going through basic training or phase 2 training there at the time. Each one of them comes from a different background. You could have, Fijians through to Ghanaians, St. Lucians, South Africans. We all come from sort of different backgrounds and different cultures, obviously. But certain things I would do with a South African is different to how a St. Lucian or Ghanaian might take it. Nobody sat us down and taught us that. Now it's taught us. And it was then the CO sort of like, march him out. He's got a fucking point. March him back in. Right. Don't fucking do that again. But now all the NCOs are going to go through exactly what you've said. How to deal with different cultures, especially in a training environment. So, yeah, I'm sorry to everybody who's having to go through that fucking training now, but yeah, that was me and it got me off a charge. But yeah, it's just...
You say it's needed. It's definitely needed.
100%. And why it wasn't thought of initially? I've no fucking idea. Do you think of it when we go away on tour? But actually, we pride ourselves on having that diversity and inclusion in the British Army. Well, we should all know. And one of the best units I've ever been to for this was Marchwood. They have basically one day a year where they celebrate all the different nationalities in the regiment, and they come together and make a stand and sort of promote their country, if you like, producing food. The families get involved. There'll be dancing and singing and different food things, and that's amazing because the guys all come down from the blocks and learn a little bit about the home culture and home life of some of the soldiers that they're working with. That should be throughout I don't know whether it is or not, but that should be throughout the British Army and every bloody regiment. That.
All three Irish here used to, the regularly, well, I say regularly, yearly, annually, the Fijians would have their day.
Yeah.
And it was fucking amazing. You're just like, what? The only time I really interacted with them was fucking stayed away from most of the time. Especially if they've had a beer. Yeah, you do what you want, mate.
100%, mate. Full Pinterest back 200 metres.
Fucking hell, yeah. Some of the best soldiers I've ever worked with.
100%.
But don't upset them when they're drunk, for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ.
But they would do absolutely bloody anything for you. Absolutely anything. Up to and including taking a bullet if they need to, you know what I mean? They're amazing, amazing soldiers.
So what was your worst tour?
I don't know, because each tour, I enjoyed each and every tour for a different reason. I think the worst tour for me was probably Kosovo. The worst tour for me for later on in life and thinking back to it was Kosovo. Certainly when we saw some of the things that were happening out there. The worst tour for me physically, I think, was Bosnia. Simple reason being I didn't go to Bosnia until 2001 in Shipovo. That was the point then when we went out of camp with concealed weapons in civvies to go for a mixed grill in the local town. That's not a war zone. We did a few days R&R in Sarajevo in the American camps and got absolutely shit-faced and, hustling the Americans playing pool and things like that. That's not a tour for me, we went out on patrol a few times, the old Mostovi patrols, a bit of hearts and minds and chucking some money into the local markets and things. But to me, that was just 6 months in buggerance of being away. And we certainly shouldn't have got a bloody medal for it. There was still a few bits and bobs happening, but it wasn't at all for me. So I spent 6 months very bored. And the fact that we could drink on camp, it became one of those tours, either get fit or get fat.
And I know which route I always ended up going down, and it wasn't fit.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, that wasn't really I didn't enjoy that at all. Don't get me wrong, still have a few laughs and all the rest of it. But all the times I went to Iraq, there was a different element of that tour which made it interesting, or I won't say fun. We still had fun.
I get what you mean.
It's the British Army way of doing things, isn't it? Dark gallows humour and all that kind of stuff. They were still kinetic. I think it was one of my later tours. We had the record for the amount of IDF coming in one tour, and at that time I was doing the G2 job, intelligence. So it was my job to sort of help map it, and we'd been hit on average something like fucking 12 times a night for 6 months. You know what I mean? It was fucking mental. That kind of thing keeps you on your toes, and that's what makes you enjoy it and doing your job and taking everybody home. But probably bar one or two for a lot of units, but taking everybody home at the end of that tour, that to me was the most important thing. And my job, certainly on the later tours, doing the G2 stuff, hold on, that's my input, along with others, obviously, which are keeping these people safe, keeping them away from areas where something might be about to happen and all that kind of stuff. So those ones I really enjoyed, having to use my head and what have you. But yeah, Bosnia was just, it was another Optoska. There is a job to do, but that's after we've had some fucking brandy sours. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I did Bosnia in 95 and 96. And the one I did in 95 was interesting, very interesting. I mean, I was attached to another regiment and we were sent there as medics.
Oh, well.
Ambulance commanders. But what the fuck's going on? It's supposed to be signalers. But yeah, looking back on my time, it's that tour that is the only one that's really affected me.
Yeah.
The other things have affected us, but for some reason, Bosnia always just, it does get to me. And sometimes it's not what you're saying, it's what you didn't see, but you saw the aftermath.
Yeah.
You knew what had happened, and you were there at the aftermath of it, and you were there cleaning up and tidying up and seeing what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually seeing it happen. And I know, guys who talk about PTSD and stuff like that. People who don't understand it think that, to suffer from PTSD, you have to have gone through that traumatic episode in your life. Not the case. Trauma is different to different people. And it's just that way it is. So trauma might be something that you remember seeing that's affected you, something that happened to you, something happened to you. There's a young guy with complex PTSD. Mm-hmm. I know guys who don't mind, literally, I know a guy who said he doesn't mind being diagnosed with PTSD, but he doesn't want to be diagnosed with complex PTSD because that takes it away from, something happened to him when he was a kid or wherever, or in his early life. He thinks that takes away his suffering, let's say, what happened to him while he was in the army. And he said that, that's what makes me who I am now. He's fine now, don't get me wrong, he's fine now. But that's what makes him who he is now. And he doesn't want to be associated with it. But it's different, I think he looked on a... You mentioned it earlier, of the embarrassment of like seeking help and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you say to somebody, I've got complex PTSD, people would know what that can actually mean. It's kind of... They may feel a bit embarrassed about it, if you know.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. But it's also a sort of generational thing as well. The army wasn't that good at the mental health sort of thing, It was only, bloody hell, which telic was it? I think it was telic 5, where we really got decompression, and they started bringing in. It must have been later when I was doing force protection. But they started bringing in TRIM, the old trauma risk management that the Marines came up with. That was very much later. But prior to that, it was still very much that you don't fucking talk. You certainly don't talk amongst your mates for fear of them thinking that you're weak and that you can't do your job. And yeah, mental health was a fucking weakness. So it's very hard to get rid of that, much the same as, and obviously I do this a lot at Tommy's. The army is very good through junior leaders, breaking everybody down to nothing, building them back up as a team. That's the whole fucking reason behind basic training. They're very good at training into you, fight or flight. They remove the flight bit, and you get taught when something happens, it's hard, fast, aggressive, win the firefight. You get that drilled into you constantly. And that's the same in life as well. They don't untrain you for that, and they don't reinstill the sort of flight bit of, and you deal with that through every fucking day. Sitting in a pub and somebody kicks off, I could do that now because I'm older. I've just gone past that 50 mark now. So the best way to win any fight is not to fucking be in it.
Fucking walk away from it. Yeah,
correct. 100%. And if you got,
you're right. We wouldn't. We would.
Yeah. Smack first, ask questions later. Preemptive strikes, fucking all hard, fast, aggressive. Do what you need to do to win.
Most of the scars I've got is where I've tried to stop fights by getting involved in them.
100%, mate.
Yeah,
and that's a problem that we've got. Is that's never sort of drilled back into you when you come out and you're trying to fit into society.
So I mean, as you mentioned there, like you were on that tour, you were doing like G2 and stuff like that. So obviously you're getting up through the ranks, and I know that you made RSM. How was being, I don't know how to put this.
Go on, nothing's off the box, mate. You can ask away.
Fucking RSMs don't really have a fucking job, do they? I know they haven't any artillery because I've fucking watched them. My last 6 years in the army, I was downgraded and I did an office job in RHQ. And fucking RSMs, they're just fucking there having a brew. You know what I mean? It's like, obviously, they're in charge of discipline and stuff like that. CELO's right-hand man. But they do seem a bit of a figurehead, but they have to be scary. They have to be fucking scary. They have to have that reputation. Otherwise, who's going to listen to them? You know what I mean? What type of RSM are you?
That's a fucking amazing question, mate. So I was very lucky. So when we got told that, there's probably a chance I'd come off the W01's board, and then here's the RSM slots because you've got to be recommended for it, done the prerequisite sort of career for it. You get a list of these are the jobs that are available. And I knew I'd be in my last 2 years. So I volunteered to go to a reserve unit in London, 151 Regiment, thinking it's my last 2 years. I can network like fuck while I'm in a reserve unit. The only work weekends, fucking bonus. How fucking wrong was I? Because when I turned up, I wasn't just the RSM. I was the ammunition storeman. I was the MTW. I was the MTO. I was, in the reserve units, the regulars hold like fucking 7 or 8 different fucking hats that they've got to change all the time. So it turned out I'd worked harder then than I ever fucking worked in my life. But how do I put it? The sergeant major bit for me was where, when I got posted from Germany to Marchwood as a sergeant major, a squadron sergeant major, because one of the previous sergeant majors from Marchwood was now my RSM in Germany, and he's a fucking good mate of mine, Chalky. So when I come off the sergeant major's board, of course, everybody who knows they're going to get a new sergeant major and a name appears, like, who the fuck's this? Who's this Mick Riley? Who's this Mick Riley? Well, Chalky'd been back on the fucking phone to all his muckers back in March. You don't want to fuck about with Mick. Do you know what I mean? He's a fucking nightmare. There's a reason he's come fucking top of the board, and stand by when he gets here. He'll fucking kick you lot into fucking shape. And so I turned up all happy, and I've always been a believer. I've sort of picked elements from sergeant majors and various figureheads in my career and thought I want to be a bit like that and a bit like that, a bit like that. And at no point was any of them shouty, screamy, horrible, threatening man. Yes, you can be a scary man because of the power that you've got. You can end a soldier's career easily. That's what people should be afraid of, not the fact that you are going to, physically hurt them or anything like that. I've always been a believer in that. So I was very much I will always meet attitude with attitude. Hi guys, how you doing? I'm fantastic, sir. Thank you very much. Well, fucking relax, big fella. What the fuck? And it was about 4 or 5 months later when speaking to other sergeant majors in the regiment, what have you. He said, "No, your fucking reputation got here weeks before you did." Now, what fucking reputation? No, I've obviously done certain things through my military career, and some of those stories got embellished and managed to get back. And it was the same when I was an RSM. Going into a reserve unit, it's a waste of time going in trying to change the world, because every RSM, Marchwood again, prime example. We're called gypsies. They have their own the wet trades that they call them, the port operators. Your navigators, the guys who go out onto the water and all that. They are there for 22 years because there's nowhere else they can fucking do it. When we come in as a sergeant major or a clerk or whatever, you come in 2 years, 3 max, and then fuck off, and the next bloke comes in 2 years, 3 years. These guys are sitting there for 22 years going, really? Again? So why come in and try and change the world when it doesn't need fucking changing, just to put your stamp on it? Actually, what I did was come in, see what it was that was possibly going wrong, and then get the warrants in together and go, right, okay, so I think this is going wrong. Has this been done before? Has that been done before? What is your sort of view on it and how we can make this better? And I think that was one of the first times that a sergeant major had actually done that in that sort of environment. They're like, oh, right, well, we'd like to. Gleeman, let's do it. My job is to get the OC to agree to it, which I was very fortunate. I had a great relationship with the OC at the time. And it was the same in London. Fantastic relationship with the commanding officer. Absolute legend of a bloke. And most of my job, to be honest with you, was that strategic sort of side of life, things that did need changing, because we were warned beforehand when we went in there, look, there's a bit of a reputation that this isn't happening, that isn't happening, with Op 45 and all that kind of stuff, building the reserves up. We need these to be at this point when you two leave in 2 years' time. It was CO and RSM went in at the same time. And I'm very proud to say we're the places we took that regiment, to be perfectly honest with you. But that was 90% of my job. It wasn't the shouty, sweary. I only held 2 regimental parades in 2.5 years as an RSM.
No.
Because there's no need to.
Yeah.
You don't need to walk in and shout at people.
I mean, you mentioned that it was going to be your last 2 years. And you were going to be networking and stuff like that, which is great. Did that work out? Did you have time for resettlement? How did you find the resettlement process?
Well, that turned out not to be my last 2 years. So obviously I entered the resettlement process, and I got the £534 resettlement grant that you get. But what I also did is apply for SSCP. We obviously used to be called LSL, long service list. When you're applying to stay in, obviously on the long service list, it's briefed into the continue your resettlement, continue getting out of the army, because we're not going to give you anything until you're in your last 6 months. So that's what I did. And in my last 6 months, I get a phone call. But that's fucking difficult, mate, because at that point now, we bought a house. The family's moved into that house. I'm working on a company. And that light at the end of the tunnel is getting very fucking much brighter. You're almost handing your kit in with 6 months left to do, you know what I mean? And yeah, Manning Records are on the phone. They said, look, we've got this job. You're probably one of the only ones that's applied for the LSL this year that could do it. I was like, nah, fucking ain't happening. No chance. And I was like, well, why? I've bought a house. My family's in that house. My family's settled there. I'm looking forward to actually going and fucking living with my family for the first time in 5 years. I went, oh, that's a shame. But you've got that little niggling thing in the back of your head. Just out of professional curiosity, what job is it? It's the last ever Command Sergeant Major British Forces. Oh. And just thought to myself, I classed Germany as my first posting. Because even though I went to 29 Reg in South Cerney, I didn't do that trade. My trade was always been driver 110. So I count Germany as my first sort of posting. And I thought, what a way to go. Just do that one job, extra couple of years. What harm can it do? Fuck it, I'll take it. So, yeah, I actually got posted from there back out to Germany as the last ever Command Sergeant Major, BFG.
Well, that went down well at home, did it?
When you put it realistically, and this is how I put it to the wife at the time. Look, if I stay in the military, I'm staying as a W01, obviously. Jobs don't get much fucking better than this. This is the only place you can go from this, because you never come down, obviously, is Garrison Sergeant Major jobs if I stay on the LSL, which I can do till I'm 60. It's always going to be in those positions of power, but not necessarily looking after blokes. Do we really want to, right now, suddenly, when I get out, lose that W01 pay? Yes, I'm going to have my pension, and yes, you got your gratuity payout and all that. But what if I can't get a job as higher paying? Right now, when we've just got a mortgage, do I really want to be turning this down? When I can go to Germany, get LSA, I will get separation allowance. It was an unaccompanied post. Separation allowance, I'll be living in the mess. So I thought, the over 37 package, and the get you home sort of stuff as well. I'll still be home every 6 weeks. You can come out to Germany, whenever you want. And I sold it to her. So off I fucked to Bielefeld, to HQ BFG. And yeah, it was an amazing time, mate. It really, really was an amazing time. Again, many, many laughs. But seeing that more strategic side of it, there's only one person I answered to. That was Commander BFG at the time, Ian Bell, ex-artillery fella.
I know him.
Top man.
Yeah, he's
so much time for him.
and he should be listening to this because I'll message him that you're on it, and then if you are listening to it, I'm still waiting for you to answer. He's free to come on to it. We had a reunion last year, and he came straight over.
Lovely fella.
Yeah, he is absolutely brilliant guy. And he said, "I'll do it. I'll do the podcast." Now off him yet?
He's an absolute top bloke. In fact, Ian was instrumental in me getting out because I did that job for sort of 18 months or so, just working with Ian. And he rang me up when he was on leave, and he was like, "Right, Mick, you're in my, absolute inner circle of trust, and I want you to hear it from me before you hear it through the chain of command." So, "What's that, boss?" "I'm getting out." "So what do you mean you're fucking getting out?" He said, "I've just left the office. I'm in London. I've just left the office with, I think it was with CGS at the time. I've been offered a job. It's my dream job. I can't fucking turn it down. And I'm also taking early release. So when I do come back to Germany, I won't be there very long." That was the catalyst for me, the kick up the arse for me going, hold on, that's a very brave move that he's doing. And he's took early release as well. He's done like 30 odd years in the army. I've done 26. Fuck it. So when he come back, I was like, "Boss, signing off." "What?" And I'd like early release as well. And he was just looking at me going, "Have you fucking thought this through?" "Yeah, I have. Yeah. Let's face it, the older you get, the harder it is, obviously, to get a job in Civvy Street. Do I sit on the long service list now until, 55 and then try and get a fucking second career at 55 years old? No chance. Or should I jump ship now and go out on a high?" I always said, because obviously hitting your W01, you lose track of the amount of fucking times half colonels and above go, "When are you going for commissioning? When are you going to commission? When are you going to commission?" I always said, I joined a soldier, I will leave a soldier, and I'll leave on my own terms. And that's exactly what I did. I turned the commission in, not turned it down as such. I was told to apply for it so many fucking times and just never ever did. So when I did get out, I got out as a soldier at the highest fucking level. And this is what I said to Ian at the time: "Look, I can't get better than this as a job. Now's the time. I've been living apart from my family so long. All my kids are now grown up. I've been away for God knows how many fucking years on tours and what have you. Now's the time to go home." And he turned around and said, I'm not really happy with the, early release and all that. "But you're doing it." "Right, okay, there you go." And he fucking signed the forms to allow me to get out early. So at that point, I got in touch with the resettlement officer. I said, "Look, flash to bang on this is not great. I think I signed off in October, and I was getting out in 2nd of April. But obviously with the termination leave and resettlement leave and all the rest of it that goes on that, I was finishing work at Christmas." So I said, "Look, flash to bang isn't great on this. Let's get this fucking resettlement done." He went, "You've done it?" I said, "What do you fucking mean I've done it?" "Yeah, you did it when you were an RSM." I said, No. That should have been fucking on the system. That should have been switched off to say that I'm no longer in resettlement because I've signed back on with the LSL. And nobody ever did. And that was through CTP. So basically, they'd had on their system that I'd received all my resettlements and I'm not entitled to fuck all. It was in the last week before I left Germany, they went, "Oh, yeah." Too late by that point. So, yeah, that was a bit of a kick in the spuds, or spud, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason.
So how did you find the transition then? What was it like going home and staying up?
It took 6 weeks. So when I come home, the first sort of, as I said, I left pretty much at Christmas time. I went back to Germany for a week to have my ID card in January. The rest of that time I was sat at home, and I knew I was getting paid until the 2nd of April. So yeah, the first 4 weeks I was just literally, right, let's see what this fucking civ div's all about. Bearing in mind we bought the house and I'd never moved into it really. So yeah, the first 4 weeks I was just kicking back. Fuck it, let's go and get a bottle of whiskey and fucking have a few drinks. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. Who gives a fuck? Who's going to shout at me now? You know what I mean? That kind of freedom. But in the background, I was obviously working on my CV, job applications, all that kind of good stuff. I sent out 250 job applications in sort of 6 weeks and received 2 interviews. From those 2 interviews, the best one was on 18 grand a year as an operations manager in a shopping centre. And I thought, whoa. How the fucking mighty have fallen, you know what I mean? Coming from Germany on all that money. I mean, let's not fuck about with the W1 pay and the separation allowance and everything that goes with that. You're on 60 grand a year plus. Hold on. 18 grand a year. That doesn't even pay for me fags, let alone fucking, living. So I started flapping a bit. But that's when, it's great now I can look back on it. That's when I had no choice but to sort of start looking at myself and reflecting a little bit. And I think that's what caused it. I had 8,000 people not relying on me, obviously, but sort of under me, if you like, in Germany. I've now got 3 in this civvy job. I've already been, I had a couple of occasions which I found I wasn't exactly a customer-centric individual. So I'd received a couple of warnings for that already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, things just took a fucking dive, mate. There's no 2 ways about it. And I ended up this one day going into work. I can remember it like it was fucking yesterday. Things have been going fucking wrong at home, whether that's, right or wrong, whether that's, what we were talking about earlier, that element of separation. We couldn't really get that back or whatever. But yeah, I went into my boss in work and went, look, something's come up and I'm going to have to shoot off, mate. He went, yeah, no dramas. I'll see you tomorrow, mate. Gleaming. Went home, saw my daughter, gave her a big hug and said, when your mum comes in, just tell her that I've had to go away for a couple of days on a training course for work. Yeah, all right, Dad, yeah, no problems. My daughter was 24 at the time. I gave her a big hug, walked out, got in the car, knowing exactly what I was about to do. And I drove into North Wales. I always had camping gear in the back of my car because that was always when I need a moment of reflection, get out onto the hills somewhere, sit, little barbecue on a fire or something, glass of wine, watching the sun go down. That's my peace. And so, yeah, I drove to Frith Beach in North Wales, stopping at a few supermarkets and things on the way. And I had 500 Coco de Malt and a bottle of whiskey and some camping gear and a burger. And my plan was get up into the sticks, wing the fucking phone into the river so nobody could chase me on the phone, up into the sticks, dig in, put the little tent up, if I could be arsed, camouflage it, fucking scrim it up, climb inside, and yeah, nobody would find me. I would make sure nobody would find me. Well, one thing led to another. I won't go into too much detail, but my phone rang and it was my mother. And I'm sat there, fucking tears dripping down me, knowing what I was about to do. I thought, I can't miss this opportunity. Just, have that one last phone call with my mother. And she knew what I was doing. And she's like, you've got to come home, you've got to come home. It was at that point I thought, you know what, you're fucking right. I'm not on my own. There are people that fucking love me. There are people that tolerate me, if you like. And I had a grandson then as well. But you know what? They don't deserve this. I need to fucking work on this. I need to sort that out. So, yeah, I didn't go home that night because I was fucking ashamed. Absolutely ashamed that I'd allowed myself to get to that point. So I went to a campsite in North Wales, middle of the day. And, my mother's like, what are you doing here? I need you to fucking get home. I was like, look, I've gone to this campsite. There's lots of people here having their summer holiday. Now, I'm not going to do this to myself because I know that all these fucking kids, I grew up going camping every year with my mum and dad and all that. Some of the best memories I've ever had. I don't want these kids waking up in the morning to a fucking ambulance dragging a fucking body out of a tent. I will not do that to other people. And she went, okay, so I got rid of the tablets, kept the whiskey, and that night was my very much sat outside my tent, listening to the kids and watching the kids play around and all that kind of stuff, and the families having barbecues and laughing. And I just sat there with this bottle of whiskey and I did the whole fucking bottle. And that's when I thought, right, we need to fucking do something here. So that was the start of my sort of mental health journey, if you like. That was my lowest point, you know. I know you know yourself, and a lot of your listeners do. The only time you know you can start climbing is when you've hit the bottom. That was very much the fucking bottom. I couldn't go any fucking lower. So I thought the only way now is up. And that's
it's like the saying says, it's you've lived the worst days of your life already. So the only thing that can be is better.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%.
It really is. I mean, the other thing people don't get and they don't understand is the mindset of somebody when they get that low. Sometimes, you know, you'll come across it yourself, not only with yourself, but when you've been talking with other people. You know, if you've never experienced it, you can't understand how they feel. Because it's a weird thing that your mind's a fucking horrible bastard.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it really is. Mine helped me in a way that, and again, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that I developed OCD, weirdly enough. So as soon as I started thinking about the bad things, I think I've left, the front part of your brain goes, no, you've left the gas on. And I'm like, no, I haven't. And I concentrate on that, but it got that deep that I would be driving to work, and it takes me 20, 25 minutes to get to work. I'd be driving in the gears to work going, fuck. I'd have to turn around and drive all the way back home. You know, but that was, you know, I spoke about with my counsellor and obviously things I've studied later on. And it's that your brain's protecting you. It's getting you to concentrate on something else. But when you get to a point where that can't happen, everything else seems logical. So when you think, right, I've got to do this, it's the only way out. Mm-hmm. A lot of people feel a sense of euphoria. They feel relaxation, thinking, right, this is it then. Right? Because the mind's not trying to protect itself. And it just feels as though, yeah, this is normal, this is right, this has got to be done. You know, they say that, you know, it's a permanent solution to every temporary problem. To do, you know, the other train of thought is that we should be able to save everybody who attempts suicide, who has suicidal ideations. Unfortunately not. You're not going to save everybody because some people can't defend themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has happened fairly recently with one of the guys from TikTok. A lot of your listeners will know him. I'm not going to mention his name. But,
I know you.
Yeah, he was a mate, and he put an actual message out on TikTok saying, by the time you see this, it'll be done. I am sober. I am, you know, don't touch drugs. He didn't do drugs anyway. He said, but I am sober. But he'd spent, you know, 6 weeks in absolute fucking turmoil, in and out of, you know, a secure mental health facility, and then he was coming out and engaging with all of us. He came to Tommy's Lounge and all that kind of stuff. And it's only now we sort of look back and realise that was his goodbye talk. He was coming out and engaging with all of us to say to that, really. And he knew in the back of his head what he wanted to do. And nothing was going to fucking stop him. He was that unhappy in civilian life. I mean, he lost his wife and daughter, you know, several years ago. From that day, he only ever wanted to be with them. And yeah, none of us could have stopped that. None of us. So yeah, we said goodbye to him, as you know, fairly recently. But for me, it was seeing somebody in that mindset. You can't save everybody. Because physical health, it's easy when you see someone with, you know, with a traumatic amputation of the leg or arm, or multiple amputations, physical scars, it's easy to see there's something wrong. When people are talking mental health, the only way you can fucking see it, diagnose it, is by what comes out of there. And some people are fantastic actors. Yeah. Look at Robin Williams, fucking prime example. One of the funniest men alive, always laughing, always joking. But inside, he was manically fucking depressed. The same happens on Civvy Street, and certainly with servicemen and women. If I want you to think that I'm absolutely fucking fine, I'll make you think I'm absolutely fucking fine. Because we'll be out together having a laugh, and we'll go for a drink and all the rest of it. You can only get a heads up by what comes out of there.
I mean, that goes back to earlier as well, talking.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you're right. We don't talk. I think we are getting a lot better at it. With the advent of social media, podcasts and stuff like that, the message is getting there, and people are talking more. But that brings me on to what you did with Tommy's Lounge. How did that come about?
So, yeah, obviously, that marriage that I was in at the time, that not now, that was part of the fucking problem. So therefore, that ended. Me and her split up. All the kids had grown up and fucked off. And I was sort of getting on with my life. I was doing a lot of work with veterans in the Wirral, helping them through homelessness, recovery from alcohol and drugs. And during that time, it was one of our guys. It's all TikTok's fault. One of the guys on TikTok said, "Yeah, mate, get a load of this. This lady over in West Yorkshire's like getting veterans out into the sticks, camping around the campfire, talking." And he knew my story and everything. He knew my love for getting out into the countryside, and that was my safe place and good space. So he said she needed some sort of direction on how to take this forward as a charity or whatever. Well, I was already doing that. So he introduced us. And we got chatting, and he said, right, we need to meet up. Can't do everything over fucking TikTok or WhatsApp. He said, so why don't we meet up in a place in which we're going to work together forward? Let's go camping. We'll meet at a campsite near you, not a fucking problem at all. And let's discuss exactly where we need to go with this. As a veteran who's been on that sort of path. So I was brought on board. We did some stuff, and one thing just led to another. She was single. I was obviously single. Had been for a couple of years. And it just developed into that relationship. We're now married. I know you need that sort of background to understand going forward. So part of our thing is both of us love the open outdoors, and we'd often go out on adventures. And by that, we had a van at the time, and we just, of a weekend, fuck off. Miss motorways, drive anywhere. Oh, never been through here before. If we see something that we like the look of, we'd stop, go to a coffee shop or something like that. And this will resonate with a lot of people, probably yourself included, mate. It would always be the case of, right, love, I'll go to Till, can have, 2 lattes, whatever. And by the time I turn round, she's sat there. Right, Jen, can you do us a favour? Can you move over to there? I need to be over there so I can see the door. I know there's nobody behind me. And she tuned in massively, very, very quickly. While this is going on, I mentioned it, I think, I don't know whether we were recording or not, about I had that counselling, and then I found it better talking to another veteran, that peer-to-peer sort of stuff. I was still doing that. I was going to breakfast clubs and all that. But the problem with that is all the breakfast clubs are surrounded alcohol. No breakfast gets fucking eaten at all. It's first pint down the range at 11, first one to fall over loses, you know what I mean? Jen turned around to me and said, look, it'd be great if you could have this sort of talking to other veterans without the need for the fucking alcohol. You're right. It'd be great if you had a place where if you walked in, every seat was your comfortable seat, not staring around looking for that one in the corner. What about if every seat was like that? I said, you're absolutely right. So she came up with the idea, look, we need to do something. Why don't we open a coffee lounge? And that will be a safe space. We'll make it warm and inviting and all the rest of it. But where veterans can talk to other veterans without fear of judgment, without alcohol involved for a fucking start, and we'll make it a coffee lounge. Okay, so the concept was born. Then it was a case of, right, you can't open a coffee lounge with $5.99 in your fucking pocket, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fuck. So I got some personal loans, and I just came home one day and said to Jen and her mum Sue, there's the money, do it. I was like, fucking what? So they found a little venue in Huddersfield right outside the train station. We thought, what a fantastic fucking place for commuters, because it's not just veterans. It's open to it's a coffee lounge. It's open to everybody. What a fantastic place to be. Until the train station shut down for ongoing fucking works, and we didn't get any fucking commuters coming through. So at that point, it's been like a little bit of sort of word of mouth type thing, you know. We can't advertise the fact that we're there on the building. We can't put any signs up because it's a Grade 2 listed building and we can't get permission to do it. We put a little board out the front to say, this is us, we are here. And then a fucking taxi driver twatted it within 20 minutes. And we just ran out of money buying these fucking boards to put out for taxi drivers to knock over. So it's one of these places you got to know about us to Google us to find out where we are. It's not difficult. We are outside the fucking train station in Huddersfield. But it very soon became exactly what we wanted it to be. You can sit in Tommy's. Even better, you can walk into Tommy's, open the door and shout, "Morning, wankers," and everyone goes, "All right." Nobody bats an eyelid. You can't do that in fucking Starbucks, mate. You know what I mean? It's a place where you can be yourself. You can walk in, you'll hear two army lads, me and you taking the piss out of each other, me calling you a fucking drop short, you calling me a fucking blanket stacker, you know, that kind of carry on. But then somebody from the RAF will walk in and then we'll both turn on him. Right, you crap twat, and fucking will. That banter is back there, that familiarisation, that brotherhood. The walls are massively, like your wall now, you know, you've got your stuff on. Ours is, you can hardly see any fucking wallpaper now. There's just plaques and maps and pictures and all kinds of fucking everywhere from every different...
I've seen the photos and the videos.
It's amazing, mate. But more importantly, it's an amazing place to be. Blokes are talking to each other without actually realising that they're helping each other. We've had two older guys come in. I say older guys, a little bit older than me. We're looking at one of my maps on the wall from Telic 1. And it's signed by my section because I left early to go to Deep Cut. My section signed it and hid it. And it was about 6 months later before I fucking found it. It's now in a frame in Tommy's. And there's an old boy. Bloody hell, I know where that is. I remember being there. Complete stranger, other side of the room. We'd never seen him before. When were you there? Oh, 2003. Who were you with? Oh, fucking such and such. Fucking hell, we were down the road from you. I came to your fucking place and they were talking about incidents. Both these blokes were literally within sort of 20 minutes crying. They'd never, ever spoken about one serious sort of incident. Neither of them had ever spoken to it about it to their families, friends. Never. Suddenly, when they're in front of one another, knowing that both of them were there at the same time, started talking and talking openly. And then the rest of us are in fucking tears in the background. They're like, fucking hell, you know what I mean? That's how it goes.
Yeah, it's how it goes.
It's the power of Tommy's, mate. So that's what we do. That's what it's all about. That's a background behind it. The idea is you can just walk in there, even if you're having a shit day. You don't want to talk to anyone. Fine. Go and sit in the fucking... We've got a big library. People bring books in all the time. Come and pick up one of the books. Sit down. We've got free Wi-Fi. You know, if you just want to sit on your fucking phone, it's all right. We've got charging points. We'll charge your phone for you. Sit on your phone. Don't talk. Don't care. As long as you buy a fucking coffee. But even the coffee is made for us by Explorer Coffees, a veteran-owned company. So we're trying to support other veteran organisations while we're doing it as well. It's just a fucking amazing place, mate. That's the long and short of it. But more importantly, it's a place where you can be yourself. No snowflakes allowed. If you're offended by anything, get out. You know, and there's been a few occasions where I've had to say to people, usually civvies, well, I couldn't give a fuck. This isn't Starbucks. It isn't Costa. If you want customer service, fuck off to one of them. At the end of the day, I call it a safe space for everybody. And that means guys and girls who want to come in and talk about stuff, you fucking crack on. The only thing we say is no politics, no religion. Because they're the two things that are guaranteed everyone's got different opinions on, and it will cause a fucking problem. And we will stop people talking if they start talking about politics or religion. But everything else, yeah, it's like being back in the fucking naffy again, mate.
No, I get it. I've seen it, and you're right. There's more and more places like this appearing, and they don't get the advertisement. They don't get they don't get the people don't know they're there.
Yeah.
And if it isn't for like social media and people spreading word, then I found out about you through Facebook. I'd seen a thing about Tommy's Lounge and this, that, and the other, and then I started, stalking you and looking forward to it, and you were ignoring me, and
I'm a busy man, mate. I'm a busy man.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard of the last post. The last post up in Thornaby.
Yep.
I'd never heard of that until I've seen it on Facebook, and I decided to go down one night. Like you mentioned, you go camping, and last year I bought a little camper van, little 30-year-old little fucking box of rust. But it's now given me the ability to, like you said, safe space. I know that not far from me there's a reservoir, and it's like a stopover. It's like 10 quid a night. And a lot of people use it dropping over, going up to Scotland and coming to camp. And I just like driving up there, watching the sun go down, sitting in the back of the van, crate of beer. Maybe I shouldn't be having a crate of beer, but I am. And just sit, just sit there on my own, don't talk to fucking anyone, just chill. Put a tablet on, watch a bit of TV or whatever, and just relax, getting away from everything. And then
that's what it's all about, isn't it?
So when I found out about Julie's place, I said to him, mate, I said, do you want to go down there? And he's like, well we can't go, because we live up in Northumberland. Not as if I could just drive down there, get pissed and jump in the car and drive back. I said, fuck it, we'll take the van. They said, where are we going to start? It's not a car park. We'll just stop the car park. And they were like, you can't do that. I said, you can. So we did. We even got an Uber delivered. Not fucking pizza delivered for the night. But it was great. And, you mentioned like the memorabilia on the wall and stuff like that. And, and I have seen photos and videos of your place, and it is amazing. And then you look at like what Julie's place, and I mean, it's a museum for God's sake. It's great. And I'm not trying to publicise their place over yours. Don't get me but what I'm trying to say is that your places exist, and they exist for a reason. And that reason is to bring us together and for us to talk. And like everybody keeps banging on about, we have to talk. If you don't talk, you can't get that shit out of your fucking brain. And it'll stay in, it'll fester. And that's when it gets deep and dark and fucking dangerous. You start talking about your feelings that none of us like to talk about, but it's hard. I can't talk to the kids at work I work with. I couldn't tell them half the stuff that bothers me. But I could sit in a fucking podcast and do it and tell strangers. I don't know. But I can talk to you, or I can talk to other people. And people have conversely have come back to me because of the podcast saying it's helped. I've got one lad. I won't say his name, but he basically I've got to buy me a coffee thing, and he signed up to pay me that fucking couple of things, buy me a coffee a month. What are you doing that for? You don't need to do that. He goes, no, you don't realise. He goes, you kept me going, so I've done that for you. And I'm like, that kind of humbles me. I'm doing fuck all. I'm just sat here. This is my hobby. I don't do it for fucking money. It's just a fucking giggle. But when you realise that you might be helping some people, it makes you feel quite humbled. And and I'm not trying to compare myself against what you're doing. Not at all. But it's people like yourself that go beyond and help, and you save lives. You really do save lives. Even you might not know it, or other people might not realise it, but you do save lives. I mean, what's the plans for the future? Have you got anything to expand? What would a franchise?
Well, that was always the dream. It wasn't just Tommy's Lounge in Huddersfield. The dream was to have these dotted all over the fucking country. But the problem we've got is the lounge itself doesn't make enough money to sustain itself with the overheads, especially in fucking today's environment. You know what I mean? Everything's gone up, but we don't want to pass that on to the guys. We've got the Buy Tommy a Brew. So people can come in, they fill out a post-it note with a personal message, and they either pay for the price of a brew or, a meal deal, 5-6 quid, and they put it on a big cutout of a Tommy soldier. So even if any veterans come in are skint, they can grab a post-it, read that personal message, and they can keep hold of that. But then they can use that, to get themselves a brew, and that's when we sort of jump in and go, well, why are you in this position? Is there anything we can help you with? All that kind of stuff. But as I said, the money side of life is a fucking nightmare. We've basically bankrupted it. Me and the missus have basically bankrupted ourselves making this happen. And we were going to close the doors until we got that fucking message like you've had. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. And I'm sort of there. That's how close I am. I've got the doors that fucking close together. Bollocks. Can't fucking do it. I can't close these, knowing that that's the kind of influence that we've got, or somebody is now walking this earth because of us simply providing this. We can't fucking stop. So yeah, it's just balls out. So we developed a charity wing, if you like. It's Tommy's Voice, and that is exactly what it says on the tin. We can take donations now and all that kind of stuff. So the Tommy's Voice side of life is what we do in there, that peer-to-peer support. It took us a long time, probably 6 months of backwards and forwards in with the charity commission to get it right. And yeah, we're now a registered charity, but still in our first sort of year. But hopefully the Tommy's Voice side of life will enable the lounge to continue. Going forward, God only knows, mate. It all depends on what's happening with the economic climate at the moment. We want to keep doing what we're doing, but there's only so long you can do it without, with limited resources and all the rest of it. So yeah, we don't know what the future is, to be perfectly honest with you. Ideal gold-plated solution, move to a bigger place, because we can only seat sort of, because of the way we've got the place with chairs, up against walls and sofas and what have you. There's only about 20 people we can get in there before it's packed. Part of the ethos of the place is if you come in and you need to spend all day in there, you fucking spend all day in there. That's not a problem. Nobody will ever be kicked out. Hence the reason we're called Tommies. It's after the Rudyard Kipling poem. Tommy this and Tommy that, and kick him out the brute, but the saviour of his country when the guns begin to shoot. That's why we're called Tommies. You come in, you need help. Or even if you don't need help, you just need somewhere to be, to exist. Not a fucking problem. Come and sit with us all day long, we don't mind. But the problem is, if I've got 5 people that do that, I've only got enough seating for another fucking 10 customers to pay. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's one of them, mate. We'll just have to play it by ear, see what happens, and hopefully gold-plated solution, mate, is we move to a bigger venue, get some more money in the till, raise some more money on the charity side of life, and as you said, start doing this. We do a lot of sort of reach-out stuff as it is anyway.
Yeah.
But being able to go to somebody, because the hardest thing ever, it's all very well and good developing that self-confidence and the moral courage to open your mouth to ask for help. But the physical walking into a venue in order to ask for that help is something fucking next level. So our dream is to get a vehicle, because we haven't got a vehicle. We're using our own car at the moment. To go out to places that, say we just get a message saying Frankie Dunn wants to talk to you, but, the anxiety won't allow him to leave the house. He can't fucking walk in here. Not a drama. I give you a ring. Frankie, you're happy to meet up, mate? Yeah, cool. I will then drive to you. We'll sit and have a brew, or, we develop that to go outside. Then I'd love to be doing that kind of stuff, but at the moment we just haven't got the resources to do it, to be perfectly honest with you. But that is gold-plated solution.
Let's see what the government's coming up with their new plan. Well, we'll see. Right, Mick, it's been 2 hours. That's flown by. I wish you all the best in the future with Tommy's Lounge and Tommy's Voice. I really do.
Thanks, mate.
It's an outstanding thing that you've set up and that you're doing.
Cheers, mate.
And there's got to be more and more people, or there's going to be more and more people who'll need your services. I think I did courses last year. I did a suicide awareness course, which is the first course I'd ever done on this. This journey I'm trying to push myself down. And it surprised me that, this might not might not sound right for a veterans podcast. It's not just us kill ourselves. There's not just veterans. There's, the highest suicide rate in the UK is male labourers. We all need some places to go and talk.
Mm-hmm.
We try to help veterans. Andy's Man Club, places like that. The highest suicide rate among women is. This blew my mind. Is primary school teachers.
Bloody hell!
Just blew my mind. It's because they're taking on all the angst and of the kids that are coming into school. Because let's face it, some of the parents don't. Nowadays they see the school as fucking fucking get the kids to school and then do what I want.
It's a free child minding service, yeah.
Yeah, which it isn't. So there's all these people in society that need help. And we can't help everyone, like we've already spoke about. So we have to concentrate on who we can help. And as veterans, we try to help our own cohort, our own peer-to-peer groups and stuff like that. And if it isn't for people like yourself and Julie's and the East Durham Veterans Trust and people like that and all these other little CICs that have set up all over the place, the big fucking charities can't cope. I'm not saying they're not willing to, because we could mention names and upset people. They're there, but if I had a guy on the podcast, Godfrey Bloom, you probably heard him, and he turned around and said to me, if the CEO of your charity is getting paid more than you, stay away from that charity because they're not interested in you. And I was like, it didn't resonate until he said that. I was like, fucking hell, yeah. I think people will get what I'm on about here and the places that I'm on about.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's been now down. It's getting left to people like yourself and the smaller CICs that are going on, and they're getting set up. And these guys are just fucking me and you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
They're not special, but they're getting off their ass. I should get more involved, really, to be honest. But if it wasn't for you, it wasn't for the other people who were doing it, there'd be a lot more people in harm's way, let's say.
100%.
So I wish you all the best for the future.
No, thank you, buddy.
I can't wait to see where it goes, because I really do hope that it carries on and you don't end up clubbing and you get somewhere. I really do.
Only time will tell, mate.
Yeah.
There's, as you said, there's plenty of people doing the same sort of stuff, but it's just that it's not we're not going to be millionaires off this.
No, and that's not
far fucking from it. Far from it.
Yeah, that's not the point.
It's out of that love for fellow man, you know what I mean, and woman, obviously. We're doing it whilst we were serving. You knew for a fucking fact everyone around you had your back 100% of the time, and you vice versa with them. And for me, as you know, about the transition thing, coming into Civvy Street, I very, very quickly realised no fucker's got my back. Very, very few people, especially the workforce, have got your back. We have to sort of rely back on our military sort of network to have that again. And that's all we're doing, mate. That's all we're doing. Even with this podcast, that's all we're doing, is you're providing that platform, if you like, for information to get out, for people to chat, to have a laugh and all that kind of stuff. Because of that, you're back in that fold again, you know what I mean? And it's super, super important.
Right, so we'll end the podcast now. Again, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed it. And I'll talk to you after we finish recording.
Thank you very much, Frankie. Thanks a lot, mate.
Okay. All right, I'll stop the recording now then. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that would be great, because it'll help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.